one. Boom. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. We're ready to rock and roll. This is the first time we're back in the classroom for the Business Bros podcast. And leadership is one of those things that's kind of hard to do, whether you're a high school teacher or you're trying to lead adults in the real world. It's a tough gig. But if you're interested in that, this episode's for you. Let's get this one on the road. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life. Prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros.
All right, on today's episode, we are joined by an expert in the field of venture capital and technology entrepreneurship with over 25 years of experience in the industry and a track record of success founding and investing in companies worldwide. Our guest is managing partner of a specialist venture capital fund focused on innovative areas like cybersecurity, cloud infrastructure, and data analytics. He has served as the CEO of several companies in this field and has held board positions with over 30 tech companies and organizations. He's a seasoned advisor to a VC fund, corporate venture capital groups, and startups around the globe. So let's give a warm welcome to the show, Mr. William Kilmer. All right, fire's over. Let's get to it. Mr. Kilmer, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks. It's great to be here. I don't know how I couldn't be excited with that kind of introduction.
Well, that's what we do, man. We love to have some fun. All we're doing is having a conversation, talking about what it is you do. My students are learning about creating marketing campaigns for the guests that come on the show. So I'm going to hit you with a bunch of questions so that we can create some fun content. Sound good?
All right, let's do it. Sounds great.
All right. So let's start off with the very first one. Simply put, if you could describe what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're promoting so that a fifth grader would understand it, what are you up to these days?
Okay. Wow. That's great. I'm not sure if I can explain it that well, to be honest with you, but here's what I do. And it's for me, it's a career I just never thought that I would have. Number one, I'm an investor. What I basically do is run a venture fund where we use money from others that we invest in technology companies. Then we, after we've invested in them, we help them to grow, to develop over time. We hope at some point they're going to exit, meaning they're going to either get bought or they're going to go public on the public stock exchange. And then we take that money and we give it back to our investors, and hopefully we get to keep a little bit on the side. In addition to that, I spend a lot of my time actually sitting down with these companies, either on their board or working with the executive team, sort of coaching them, helping them to think about their business in unique ways. And then on top of that, I'm also an author of a recent book that just came out a couple of months ago called Transformative. And that book is really around a lot of the work that I do in helping leaders of companies think about how they can create game-changing outcomes for their organizations.
So I'm going to try to describe it as simply as possible. When a business starts, they're like a baby. They're infants. They're barely trying to figure out this entrepreneurial space. Hopefully they get to become a teenager. And what you're helping them do is transition to become an adult and to be fully functional. In that case, you're taking them public, right? You're helping them grow to a point where they can raise capital on their own, where they're fully functional. Maybe it's mergers, maybe it's acquisitions, maybe it's bringing in other pieces. Sound about right?
Yeah, that's pretty good. The way I look at it is, everybody has great ideas. A lot of people think about starting a company. We work with people that have kind of gotten to that point where they've built a little bit of a product and they say, we've tested this a little. We found people that like it. We need help in order to grow it. And then, we step in, give them a little bit of money, give them some coaching and help. And then, we help them to grow the business from there.
Some of the big stories, I think, that when we hear about venture capitalists are things like Apple, right? You hear the story of how Steve Jobs are working out of their garage. Somebody comes over, gives them $50,000, and boom, you have this big company that happens overnight. Looks so easy in the movies, but in real life, it doesn't really pan out that way, does it?
Oh man, there's a million overnight successes out there that took 10 or 15 or 20 years to create, right? And everybody looks at it and goes, "Wow, that was an amazing company." and it's amazing how they just built that so quickly. The reality is it's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of hits and misses. And, it just really takes staying with it over time, kind of thinking about what you're doing and, making adjustments as you need to. And, for me, the venture capital industry is interesting. There's a wide range of companies you can think about. Yeah, we think about the Apples of the world or the Microsofts of the world. They took venture funding, but also the Starbucks and the Costcos and so many other companies that are out there took venture funding as well. And that helped them to just move faster than they could have on their own. And that's what's exciting, is being able to take somebody's great idea and accelerate it with them.
When companies start off, they're not really positioned or set up in a way where they can take on an investor. Usually early on, it's like mom is investing in my company, a brother-in-law is investing in my company, kind of a different kind of investor early on. What does it take for a company to go and find venture capitalists like yourself? What do they have to have in order to get to that level?
Yeah, that's a great question. And first, I would say we have to remember most companies will never take on venture funding. A lot of times, especially today, people treat that as sort of like that's their goal, is to get funded by a VC. That's not a goal. That's just like putting fuel in your car or in your rocket to make it go a little bit faster. The reality is, 99.99% of all companies will be built without venture funding. It may come from the founder themselves putting a little bit of money in. As you mentioned, maybe it's getting somebody, friends and family, to be able to invest, or people that are in the industry to maybe put in a little bit of money, or just building it kind of without having to invest a lot. For us, we invest in only a handful of companies. Really, most companies will never take investment, and that should never be seen as sort of a sign of success. But when you are going to get to that point where you're thinking about, should I raise money? I would say there's a couple of things. One is, you've already been able to prove that there's a customer out there that wants to buy your product. And maybe you've been able to show them the product. You've gotten them excited about it. Maybe they can buy it a little bit, but you really haven't been able to, expand to that larger market opportunity. Two is that you have some sort of a business model that is really venture friendly. And I know you guys had somebody on just maybe a month or two ago talking about subscription businesses. Those are the types of businesses that venture investors like, because once you've signed somebody up, they keep paying over time. You don't have to win new customers every single month or every single year. And I think, beyond that, one of the big things is you show that there's a big market out there. You may not talk to every customer. You may not know how big the market is, but you can tell by what you've gotten to so far and maybe who's been excited about it, that you can prove that there are, thousands, maybe tens of thousands, millions of people that are interested or would be interested in what you're doing.
I mean, ideally, that would be great, right? If I knew I had a market, I had customers ready to rock and roll, then I think it would be easy for a venture capitalist to come in. As you're describing that, I'm thinking, because we watched it here in class, Shark Tank, right? Shark Tank is an example of some venture capitalists. Now, the people who come on the show are from all different lots of life, right? It could be a product to a service to a bunch of different things that they're looking for. You mentioned you only invest in a handful of different types of companies. You like the subscription base. Who's the ideal client? Who's the person that you're looking for? Is it specifically in a niche, a particular vertical, or is it, you're kind of looking at things in general and then the group kind of picks from there?
Yeah. So, first of all, I love Shark Tank. I love those kinds of, opportunities, because that shows really, I think, some of the initial funding that a company might get if they're thinking about really trying to scale and grow it quickly. And that is an angel investor, somebody who comes in, looks at it, has some business experience. They're just really, really excited about what you're doing. Maybe they know the market that you're in or can help you in some way. That's always, to me, the best sort of ground level funding that you want to get in a company before you go talk to a VC, because you're going to get somebody who's just really kind of aligned with you and wants to roll up their sleeves and help you. And then, once you kind of get beyond that and you're talking to venture investors, you're usually talking to people that, will have some expertise in your area. They know that market. And, oftentimes when we talk about venture, we talk about, what can they add besides money? Right? You want to be able to get their investment, but really what you're trying to tap is the network, the connections that they have, maybe their knowledge of the industry, how they can help you with getting more customers, things that are really going to help to accelerate your business.
when a company does decide to go for finding money, like through venture capitalists, there's always these other parts of that aspect that maybe they're not quite 100% aware of. Things like giving up equity, or maybe the current owner isn't qualified to be the new CEO. You see this over and over again as companies start to get bigger and bigger. The company outgrows the leadership. Maybe they don't have as much equity as they were looking for at the beginning. What are some of those things that when you talk to business owners that come to the table that they may not quite have full understanding of, that they need clarification as their business is growing?
Yeah, you've covered a lot of them already. First is obviously when you're selling a little piece of your company for an investment, you're giving away a little slice of it today and the value that you've created. The reason why you do that is that you're hoping that you're going to grow that pie. So, you think about a pizza, right? And, you're going to give a little slice away to somebody, but in this case, you're going to get more back because that pizza is going to get bigger over time. And the percentage that you own is going to be bigger. It's going to be worth more. You really need to sort of understand that and understand how much money am I taking? How much am I willing to give away in order to be able to grow it so that it's a bigger pie for everyone. I think that's a really important, piece for people to understand. Some of it also too is that, that ownership. I mean, a lot of people come into business and, the reason why they do it is that they want their own lifestyle. They want to be able to call their own shots. They want to be able to build a business that that they're happy about and that they make all the decisions. That is a perfectly understandable position for somebody to take. And, a lot of people just want to do that. If that's the case and they really don't want to have anybody else helping them or working with them or even making some of the decisions with them, then venture capital may not be the right thing because you're going to give up some of that as well. You're going to have maybe a board of directors and they're going to be, working with you, but they're also sort of your boss at that time to say, here's how your performance is. You're doing good here. You're not doing good here. Maybe in some cases, as you talked about, they may come in eventually and say, look, you've done a great job of getting the company to where it is today. But in order to take this further, we really need a new team or we need a new person in your position. Here's what we can do. You're still going to own the company, but maybe you're not the person calling all the shots going forward. So, a lot of that is just give and take. Some of it for me is people really realistically understanding what their abilities are, what they do not want to do and what they do want to do and how good their skills are. And, I've invested in people who tell me right up front, look, I only want to take this so far. Then it's better for me to step aside because I really like the part about, generating new ideas, going and testing them, sort of building the first part of the company, getting some revenue going and, getting it to a certain level. Then I don't want to stay after that because it's kind of boring to me, right? I want to go back to that early stage again.
What about the people who do want to continue going forward? Is there a specific education level that you expect CEOs to have or experience, or maybe when you do bring on some of that venture, is there a little bit of hand holding to kind of get that owner to be at a level where maybe they do want to open their doors? They understand they don't know everything, but they still kind of want to be at the helm and are willing to take that help. Is that part of the deal when you're talking to venture capitalists like yourself?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think we've gotten into a whole different stage in the world now, thinking about education, and I'm a big advocate for education. I always tell even my own kids, that you will never have a better return on investment than getting an education. And to me, that includes, being able to go to college and graduating if that's the type of thing that you want to do and you're interested in. However, when it comes to entrepreneurship, and really all throughout the tech industry now, we're putting less emphasis on education, more emphasis on the ability to learn and the ability to acquire skills. So, I would say having a college degree, for example, or having a master's in business really isn't that necessary for you to be successful. We've seen a lot of instances where, great companies have been founded with people without an education. Facebook with Mark Zuckerberg, Microsoft with Bill Gates, right? Neither one of them graduated from college. But, for both of them, you see individuals who are highly curious people. They're always asking questions. They're very, very smart. They're very studious in everything that they do. It's just a different type. They didn't feel like they needed that education to make their business work. Now, for everybody, once you're inside of that business, that's our expectation is that, you're going to be curious about your industry. You're going to be curious about what's happening. You're always going to be looking for new ideas. You're willing to really sit down and study things out, think things through. Those are the types of skills we look for more than necessarily, you have an education or a certain degree.
Yeah, I think the traditional college route is starting to lose some flack. I think it becomes like a timing thing, right? So we live in an instant gratification era. I don't want to take 5, 6, 7, 10 prerequisite classes that have nothing to do with the thing I want to learn about. And today we have the opportunity to actually find that thing we want to learn about and then spend all our time in it. When it comes to education, I always find that you don't really know something until you try to teach it to somebody. Then all of a sudden you realize what you know and what you don't know. You wrote a book literally doing that, trying to help teach people this entire process. Tell me about the book you wrote.
Yeah. So the book I wrote is called Transformative. It was about 4 years in the making, and it really comes from my experience as an investor, as a CEO, as somebody who's coached, CEOs and other leaders and organizations. And it really started with this question for me about what makes really highly successful companies successful. We think about companies that just started seemingly from nothing with a really brilliant idea, and then they go build this great company. And I really wanted to kind of peel back the cover a little bit and look inside of great companies and identify what are the things that they did that would help other companies to be successful. And essentially, we came out with 3 things that I looked at across all of these companies, and they include, companies like Apple, like Zappos, if you're familiar with them, with Amazon, Airbnb, Uber, and others. There were really 3 things that we found, and those are, number one, that they develop an innovation strategy which shifts existing markets. A lot of times we think about, companies started a new market. They go after, more often than not, existing markets and turn them into bigger markets. And they develop an innovation strategy specifically around that. 2 is that they have a real focus on market leadership and how to grow the market that they're going into. And then 3 is that they have a particular focus on the inside of their organization to create a company in which they can fully utilize their workforce, that they have a culture that people are excited about, they have a mission that they've focused on, and that they're able to move at a faster pace than their competition at learning, sometimes even failing, and then being able to adjust to that. So those 3 things I incorporated into the idea of building an innovation strategy, knowing how to retool your organization to make it successful on the inside, and then innovating to win the entire market, not just win, with a particular product or be competitive.
Yeah, and again, all those steps, I think they're phases in a company, right? Like they don't all come at once. These are things that are kind of built into place, whether it's like you're talking about the innovative part, retooling. Sometimes you don't understand you need to retool something until you realize that there's a bottleneck in your business, and you got to come and kind of fix that. What's your experience been like as an author, going from the VC side to now you have this book that you're out here marketing?
Yeah, it's an easy transition for me because a lot of what I've written in the book and a lot of what I talk about is really sort of a product of my work as a VC. So, I spend a lot of time working with CEOs, talking to them about what they're doing. And to me, one of the things that I enjoy more than anything else with authoring the book is the number of entrepreneurs I have coming to me saying, I'm excited to read your book. I've been reading it, and here's how this has helped me. And, I had one CEO who reached out to me just recently. He said, I had a really successful first company. I sold it off. Now I'm starting my next company. I read your book, and it caused me to rethink how I'm going to build the next solution for my customers, and, thinking about how they're going to put that into practice. So for me, it's just completely fulfilling. And it's sort of like giving a little bit of a manual of how I would approach a company, as an investor, maybe sitting with the CEO.
Experience speaks volumes, right? Like when people start a business, they started with a problem that they're trying to solve. Very few started with an exit strategy in mind. And I kind of wanted to shift a little bit as the market and the economy is shifting. I'm starting to notice as I talk to more people in the VC space, in the acquisition space, burn rates. There are a lot of companies that have a lot of high burn rates that was okay when money was really inexpensive. And today I'm kind of getting the vibe that VCs are looking at these companies with large burn rates and kind of keeping their distance. What's your experience like for some of these companies that aren't showing a profit right up front, but are building maybe massive followings, databases, those sorts of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've seen a real shift in the last year, in particular, and to just, excuse me, just to put it simply, a year ago, money was kind of cheap. Interest rates were low, so investors were putting a lot of money in. And it was sort of like you could grow, faster than maybe your business was keeping up just by spending more money, acquiring more customers, bringing people on. Now, excuse me, where money's getting a little bit more expensive, we've definitely reduced that. And so most companies are looking at, how do I save a little bit? How do I really more cost effectively acquire new customers and bring them on? I don't want to be spending more money on a customer than the revenue they're going to bring me. That's one of the big metrics that we look at. And people are okay with growing things a little bit slower. I think that's good, because at the end of the day, we're not wasting a lot of money on, running faster than a market is able to keep up. And, frankly, that's hurt a lot of companies right now who maybe took a lot of money a year or 2 years ago. They took it at a very high valuation, meaning, we valued the company at a certain level, and now we wouldn't value the company at the same level. So they kind of have to take their time to grow into that price that we paid, or that a VC maybe paid earlier on. The reality is, you look at most of the companies out there, including the companies that I've talked about in my book, and most of them take a long view. It's not about, how do I scale this company in the next year or 2 years? It's how to build a really sustainable company over time that is going to be successful. It may not be worth $1 billion to an investor next year, but it could be worth billions down the road. And the way that they do that is really focusing on, how do I do something that's unique, that is valuable to our customer, and that I can defend against other companies coming in and doing the same thing.
I mean, the growth is always great. The slow is always great, but technology is always rapidly changing. So I came back to class this week, and I was excited to share with my students how on November 30th, 2022, the internet started to change with OpenAI. There's a lot of AI technology out there that is going to make a lot of things obsolete. How is that, or does it even affect your space as you're looking at different companies that are either utilizing, staying away from, or being replaced by AI?
Yeah, certainly AI is going to affect a lot of areas, maybe almost every single area. And I think, we need to look at how we incorporate it in and work in it. In my particular space, which I do a lot of investment in cybersecurity, we're actually seeing AI being very, very effective at stopping threats that are out there today, kind of learning what the environment's like, understanding what a threat might look like, and being able to identify it, on its own without a human being involved. We still are in an environment where humans now need to be involved once they've understood that it's a problem and being able to intervene. Eventually, AI will be adopted there as well, and we'll see AI taking more action. And if we don't, we know that a lot of the threats, a lot of the bad guys that are out there today that are creating a lot of these cyber threats, they're using AI to figure out the type of attacks that they can perpetrate. We're going to see this across all different areas, whether it's software development, engineering. If you're in marketing, if anybody's used OpenAI, the Chat GPT, you can create some really nice materials with it, and have it write information for you, or write, even marketing, content. So there's a lot of ways that it's going to be involved out there. I don't look at this as a black and white where, it's either good or it's bad. I think the way that we harness AI, the way we work with it, and in particular for younger people, the way that you start to understand AI and that you can incorporate it into your work, it's going to make you so much more effective as an individual, and make you more valuable in the marketplace if you know how to harness AI and use it to your benefit.
The tool itself is amazing. Yesterday I had a lady on the show who's a PR person, and she was talking about how they're using AI to help with language barriers as they hire VAs to bring in some of the marketing stuff. I was like, that is so genius. I mean, utilizing the tool for your industry is the best way to take advantage of it.
Oh yeah.
All right, Mr.
Absolutely.
Kilmer, you are obviously looking for people to come work with you. if people are looking to hire you to get your book, how do they do that? What's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so they can go to my website, which is William Kilmer, KILMER.com, or they can reach out to me directly by email. My email address is william@williamkilmer.com. So it's pretty easy.
Simple. And what are they going to find there? When they go to your website, what information's there? What would you like them to do?
Yeah, so if they go to my website, they're going to find the principles behind my book in particular, and they'll find some articles that I've written, particularly on the tech industry, on innovation, culture. I mean, I have a whole blog section there that people can go to and find more information.
So what's the goal here? You've been in the venture capitalist space. You wrote the book. Is this your exit strategy here? One of your exit strategies, or is there like a goal that you have intended for what you want to accomplish here?
Yeah, I think it's all the same, which is I really enjoy working with entrepreneurs. I enjoy working in innovation and helping to build great companies. It all fits into that same ultimate goal, which is, to work out there with people who are just really brilliant and driven and want to create something great and helping them do it.
All right, I'm gonna stick you in a time machine, and we're gonna go back. If you can go back and talk to 17-year-old students who are sitting in a high school class called financial algebra, and they're chilling here listening to you talk about venture capitalists, and they're thinking, man, I don't know if I'll ever be there. What advice would you give them to help get them started on their journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can remember when I first learned about venture capital, I was probably 22, 23 years old, went into a venture capital firm to talk to them about a summer internship. And my jaw just dropped. I'm like, this is what you guys do. You get to play with really interesting technology and companies and, help them to grow. So, what I would say is if you're there at this point and you're thinking about this is an interesting area for you, go out and look for mentors, talk to people in the industry. You will not be turned away by almost anybody that you approach to say, I'd really like to understand what you do. Can I come in and talk to you? Can we, can you go to lunch with me? Can I shadow you for a day or two? You'll find so many people that are just willing to help you because they want to give back. So find good mentors, find people who are willing to coach you along the way, help you understand more about the industry. That will open so many doors for you.
You mentioned internships, and I know at being 17-year-old, you just want some change in your pocket, right? You want to be able to pay some stuff. And you've also worked with a lot of entrepreneurs who've sacrificed that at the very beginning and have achieved some tremendous results. When you're considering working at McDonald's for some change in your pocket or internship somewhere where you might aspire to be, how would you explain that to somebody? How would you value one versus the other?
Yeah, well, I think they're going to be two totally different environments. But, if you look for an internship, if you, talk to a company and you can get in, you're going to find maybe it's a little bit different from what you might find in fast food. You might find it sometimes even a little boring. But I think what you'll end up with is you going around is really learning and sort of gleaning a little bit of the information about what's happening there. More than anything else, you'll make great contacts. And you'll probably make a little bit better money by doing an internship with a company than you might at a fast food place.
Doors, you're able to just try and test out, right? I mean, I'm glad we had the discussion on the education front, because at the end of the day, today especially, college isn't for everybody, but the internship is still an education, right? It's still, you're going in and learning something because you're curious, and it gives you not only the experience, but it opens doors to places you never thought might even be a possibility for you. And it's amazing that I get to talk to people like you, share your story with our students so they can kind of see, look, there's other options. There's different ways and different walks of life, and there's different entrepreneurs who've succeeded in all those different ways, and they're out there. As we're running low on our time here, I want to make sure I give you the floor. Any final thoughts? You share with us whatever you like. Talk about your book. Final thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I would just say along that education front, what matters is that you're just always being curious. You're always wanting to understand things, learn a little bit more, whatever that environment is. That's critical. The best entrepreneurs that are out there are humble enough to realize that they don't know everything, and they're always seeking to learn more in the areas that are most important for them. That's the most important thing I've seen. As we go back to my book, that's what I've seen in the leaders in those companies. Most of the leaders that did fantastic in these companies and built amazing companies have never even worked in the industry that they went after before. So had no idea about that industry going in, but they learned it, figured out how to do something completely different, and it was better than what already existed. And it was because they were curious and they were open-minded. So whatever you do, just always maintain that curiosity.
That's it. Curiosity didn't kill the cat. It opened the door. That's what I think. It's a whole different ballgame today. Mr. Kilmer, before we head out, I got one question for you. Any relation to Val Kilmer?
Oh, don't I wish? Don't I wish? Yeah. It's always been asked, for years and years, but not that I know of, unfortunately.
All right. Sounds good, my friend. Sounds good. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time. Have you been on a couple podcasts? What was your experience like on our show compared to any other ones you've been on?
I've been on many, many podcasts, and I have to say this one, my experience is high energy. This is great. I love the time, love the opportunity to talk to you.
Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, Transformative, if you are in a business and you're thinking maybe you need an exit strategy, maybe you want to find out about growing and taking your business to the next level, then I suggest you guys check out his book. It's called Transformative. You can get it on his website. Go to www.williamkilmer.com, williamkilmer.com. Send him an email if you have any questions, william@williamkilmer.com, or you can find him on social, transformative_leadership, all those different places. Curiosity is how you're going to get there. Might as well pick up a book and learn a little bit about what's going on from somebody who's been in the industry for a long time, doing exactly what you want to get done. Mr. William, thank you very much for coming on the show. Ladies and gents, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. And we're out.
It's over. Go home. Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast. But not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get started today.